The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. This show is very special because this is the last show that will be airing that's new before we start into the month of April. Now, I know technically Monday is technically in March, but we're counting it as April. And our new programming is starting, our April programming is starting on Monday, even though it's the day before. So it is also the last time we'll be coming to you from this studio that we are in right now. Because as you know, if you've been watching the show, we're dismantling the studio and we're moving it. So when you next see us, it's going to look exactly the same. You're not even going to notice because we're shooting on a green screen. But the camera angles might be different. So we're excited about all of that and looking forward to that. But I was thinking about this last show before we start the April onslaught. I wanted to have some suggestions for you about things to do in April because it's the A month, right? We're going to talk about all of that, but it can be overwhelming. And if not careful, I know a lot of people that go, oh, it's going to be April and I got all this stuff I got to do and all these things. Let's like pace ourselves. Okay. So we're going to get to that. But right now I wanted to say to all of you that we're debuting this show for the first time here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can be writing in with your questions and comments. And my goodness, I'm saying 10 things that I'm recommending. I'll bet you guys could each come up with 5 things of your own. So please feel free to write into the chat and do that. I also like to let all of you know that while we are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, it will be available, this entire show will be available later on in podcast. We are available wherever you download free podcasts. So our fabulous Chris Desmond is showing you on the screen, places like iHeartRadio, Spotify, all of those wonderful places for you to be able to download the free podcast. Now, the thing about free is that there is always a cost, right? There, you know what did they used to say? There's no free lunch. There's always a cost. It's just a matter of who's paying for it. So there is a cost for you to download the podcast, but that cost is defrayed by sponsors that we have. So when you're playing it and you hear a sponsor, please say, woohoo, they paid for me to get this information for free. If that is disruptive to you or your activities that you're involved in, we understand. We've got you. All you have to do is go to glow.fm/autismlive. When you get there, you will have the opportunity to basically, you're subscribing to the feed for $5 a month, which is a pretty low thing if you think about it. You will automatically get all of the things that we do at the Autism Network, not just Autism Live. You'll get Ask Dr. Doreen and all of the other shows that we do. Anything that's new will show up in your inbox. And it will all be ad-free, and that's for $5 a month. You really can't beat that, especially in the month of April. If there was ever a time you were going to try that out, I would for sure try that out in April. It will be worth it. I also want to give the programming note that on Thursdays and Fridays, we're debuting new episodes of Autism Live, these parent-to-parent talks, completely in Spanish. I can't wait. I'm going to tune in just to hear myself speak Spanish. And that's all thanks to the magic of Chris Desmond. So I want to be very clear that is with an AI assist, that I speak un poquito español and not that well. So I know I was born in Puerto Rico, you would think, and I was fluent in Spanish at one time, but language is one of those things. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? So we had to get an AI assist, but now it looks like I speak, I think, pretty fairly good Spanish. So check those out on Thursday and Friday and share them with your friends that could really benefit from having something translated into Espanol. All right. I think I covered everything. Did I cover everything? I feel like I've missed something, but we'll get to it. So let's go ahead and let's go through this. First, I want to do this next slide, and then we're going to go through it fast. and then we'll go back and do it slow. So here's the thing with April Autism Awareness Month. It all started with April Autism Awareness Day, which that is the 2nd of April. And if you tune in next week, we have the best. Kobe Bird joins me to go through Autism Awareness Day, what it means, who started it, and so on and so forth. But, at a certain point, there were people who were like, really, this awareness thing, what's that going to get us? Like, isn't everybody already aware? And I just want to attest to the fact that no, everyone is not already aware, but I certainly understand why people say, and you'll want to tune in later on in the month when we have the fabulous Lisa Ackerman from TACA on, because TACA participates in Autism Action Month. They are all about that. It's not just about awareness. It's about, take some action. You better be doing something, because if you're not getting, I so understand that. There are others who say, what about acceptance? Like, you can be aware of something, but where is your acceptance? Let's get all up in the acceptance thing. Then there are others who are like, well, excuse me, why does everybody always have to make this sound like it's such a hardship? Where's the autism appreciation? There's a lot to be appreciated in this community, right? Then others talk about, I'm an autism ally, right? We want to be good allies. And I love Amy Gravino says, yeah, allies are good. I'd like an accomplice, please. And then many people talk about autism authenticity. Those are just some of the words, the A words that people choose to embrace during this month, besides the A word autism. And so my question to you is, which one is yours? And it's fun. You can pick one a day or one a week, whatever you want to do, or you can pick one for the year and say, this year I'm going to focus on this because this is where I'm at, right? And that is absolutely fine. Guess what? Next year you can change to another word if another word fits better. So it's really about autonomy. There's another A word, the autonomy. Having the ability to choose for yourself and decide what works for you. What is meaningful to you today? What's meaningful to you this week? So pick your A word, and that will color which one of the things that I'm about to go through and how, not only what you'll want to do, but how you'll want to do it. So let's run through our 10 things really quickly. And well, first of all, you got to watch the Autism Network. We have some programming for you. I'll talk about that in a second. Let's go on to number 2. You got to search local events to see if there's something near you that's not missable. Check it out and see what there is. Number 3, make a plan, right? You know what they say? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I always have to think it through. So make a plan. There are a lot of months where it just sort of happens, right? You're like a bug on a vacuum cleaner, a bug on a lawnmower. That's the phrase. And just stuff's flying at you and you let it go. I really think that April's the time, because there are special events. It's worthwhile to make a plan and do it consciously. Let's go on to number 4. Then edit your plan, because your plan is ambitious and it's too much. It's too much. You got to edit that plan down. Let's go on to number 5. Create a time capsule. I'm going to tell you how this could be a really cool thing that's helpful to you and easy. Number 6, pick your team. You cannot do this without a team. I think we've all arrived at that. And if you haven't, get on board with that, because this idea that you're supposed to do it, oh, let's have a team. Number 7, do something with or for your team. Have an event of your own. Invite the team over. It could be a Zoom meeting. We'll talk about that. Number 8. Fly your proud parent flag. Whatever that looks like. I put a checkered board because we're reaching the finish line. But whatever that looks like, fly your, like people say, fly your freak flag. Will you fly your proud parent flag? Okay. Number 9, do something your child loves. I think you need to do this every day, and I think you need to do this every month, but especially in April. You can get caught up in all these things. Let's do what your child loves. And number 10, reflect on where you want to be next year, right? Because we want to look ahead and see where we want to be. Okay, now let's go back to the beginning and let's bathe in these for a minute. So I mentioned that we have this amazing month. Like, what is it that you want to hear about? Do you want to hear from Dr. Temple Grandin? Woo, we got you. She's on one of the last days in the month. I think the last day in the month, in fact. We've got all kinds of things. We have Lisa Ackerman, we have Kobe Bird, we've got amazing authors that are going to be with us. You know who I like? Oh, there were so many great people, and a lot of these interviews we pre-taped. So Thomas Deary from the Rising Tide Car Wash. Ooh, how amazing was it to talk with him? We've got people talking about a peer mentorship program at Rutgers. It's an amazing lineup. If you check out on our Facebook, you should be able to see our calendar, and it lists everything, including what the topics are for the Thursdays and Fridays that are in Espanol. So I hope that you'll take a look at the calendar. I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll let other people know. Somebody asked on Monday, right as we were finishing the show, they wanted to know, I think it was you, Lori. Somebody wanted to know if we were going to do the 44-hour podcast-a-thon. You know what? We decided last year that it was so much effort and there was so much technically that could and did go wrong, that instead we were going to do the same kind of thing, but we were going to do it pre-recorded and show it all month long. So that's really what we're doing. It's a little less than 36 hours, but it's a lot, you guys. If you think about it, it's like 5, 10, it's 5 weeks. So times 5, it's 25-ish new hours. It's, I'm so proud of what we were able to do with our wonderful guests and with Chris Desmond this month. So you'll definitely want to check it out. Okay. So there's a shameless plug for what we're doing, but we do what we do to help support you. So I think there's some really good stuff in there for the month of April. Okay. Number 2, I think it's critical. You know, we used to live a little bit further north, and we got this monthly magazine that would come. And I think a lot of places have these, and it would have a lot of advertisements in it and a couple of articles. But the most useful thing for me was that in the back of it, it had the community calendar. Now, this is a paper thing. I don't know that they do that anymore. We certainly don't get it in our current community. But there are lots of places that you can go and search for events to see what's going on. And there are organizations that you can search to see if they have something happening in your local area. But it's really worthwhile to find a way onto the mailing list, the email mailing list of the local things so that you have an idea of what's going on. Because there are autism events throughout the year, but usually there's more to pick from in the month of April. And you know what? You can't do them all. You cannot, first of all, do them all. But sometimes you're like, oh, I'd really like to go to that thing, but it's on Saturday, and we already promised people that we would go and do this on Saturday, or that's when this event is happening. We can't do it on that day, right? And so the nice thing about April is you have more opportunities. So you're going to be able to fit into something. I really recommend, there's a lot of walks that different charities do, or fun runs, and it's not just one. I know everybody automatically thinks, oh, the walks for this organization. There's lots of them, lots of organizations that do. So I think they're a great event because usually they are paired with a resource fair. And if you can find just a resource fair without the walk, I have no problem with the walking. I think it's great for our kiddos. I think those are wonderful, wonderful events, and they raise good money. There's nothing wrong with those. I used to go to one on a yearly basis with and for my child. And it was everything every year. It was a way that I was able to find all the resources to get us started on the right path, really for 10 years, just going to those resource fairs. And I have talked about this before on the show. When you go to a resource fair, it doesn't matter if they have 10 tables or if they have 200 tables, somebody is giving away bags. I would start at that booth, like look around, see, people are carrying bags, see the logo on it, and start there. Because usually it's in a circle, right? And I always say to people, at these events, they all say to you, you have to have an activity for the child to do while they're at your booth. So the child is engaged in an activity so that you can talk to the people. Well, that's great, except if you do that, you will get to 3 booths. And then you will be exhausted, and your child will be exhausted, and you will go home and you got to 3 booths. Now, if you already know what you're doing and you the 3 booths, There's 3 things, only 3 things that you need now. Don't let me get in your way. But since that's not most of us are like, I don't even know what's out there and I need more than 3 things, right? So my advice to you is find the booth, at least one of the booths that has, giveaway bags, go there first and start going and, have your child walk up and see whatever the activity is. And if your child wants to do the activity, that's a reason to pause while you sign up on their mailing list and grab everything that they are giving away for free and put it, one of each. I'm not saying take the whole table, one of each, put it in your bag, and then see if your child's done and move to the next booth and go on to the next activity and do the same thing. Then and sometimes you need to get a second bag. These places give away things that are branded that have, they give away squishy brains that have their name on it. Perfect. Well, that's a great sensory tool for a Tuesday when you're in the car and your child's fussy and you need to, hey, squishy brain. Perfect. And it costs you nothing. Right? And it does mean that you'll be on a bunch of people's mailing lists, but you kind of are going to need that. Those are the emails that you want to get so you'll know about more events, you'll know about discounts and things that are coming up. But don't get stuck at one booth. Keep going. Then I always say go home, like enjoy yourself, get the free stuff, play whatever you want to play. Don't get bogged down in conversations unless it's somebody you've been dying to talk to your whole life. Don't get bogged down in conversations. Then when you get home, and make sure that you regulate the day so that there's nothing else. If you're going to go to an outdoor event that's a resource fair and you're going to come home and think that you are going to go to some party that night, I'm going to tell you right now, rethink that. It's too much. That's coming in another slide. But the main thing when you get home, make sure that your child has downtime and sensory blah time. And while they're doing that, you take the contents of, I used to throw it on the living room floor, but you can put it on your dining room table, pour the whole thing out, and you start to separate it into piles and put all the sensory toys over to one side because you're going to put those in a bin or something where you're going to meter those out to your child over time. Not all at once. Put resources that you need right now into a separate pile and put the resources that you maybe will need sometime in the future in a separate pile. Now, I was very old school and kept all this in a binder, that I had binders that were for now and binders that were for the future. I'm still doing shows based on the stuff that was in the future pile, right? I'm about to run out. My son's about to graduate from college. I'm about to run out of the resources. I got to get myself to another resource fair. But anyway, search your local events, decide what you want to do, because that's going to be the next one. Number 3 is once you've looked at what all the events are, you got to make a plan. And I would start with, what would you like to do? What's of interest to you? Now, of course, you always want to be doing things that like, oh, is this something that would be good for my child? Keeping your individual child in mind, and your child might be a teen or an adult. But start with yourself. What's appealing to you, because that'll motivate you a little bit more. And then you want to add those other things in and make a plan about what would be ideal. If you could do all the things and they were all free and they were all close enough that you could do all of them, what would be the plan? What would be the schedule? And it is that thing, if you don't make a plan, it's likely that things won't happen. Do you know? Sometimes when we make a plan and we put it on the calendar, stuff still doesn't happen because we make other choices, but it's more likely statistically to happen if you have made a plan. Great. So then we go on to number 4. Number 4, you have to edit this plan. I would tell you that I love some of the best advice we ever had on the show. A woman came on and she said, only one thing a day. That's it. Only one thing a day. If you're going to add, like, there's obviously, you do many different things during the day, right? But if you're going to add something in, you can only add one thing in. So if you went horseback riding at the horse fair where they were doing the autism event in the morning, don't plan on going to the autism painting thing in the afternoon. One thing. Obviously, there's exceptions to every rule, but be kind to yourself. Be kind to your child. If everything is go, 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 at a certain point, somebody's going to have a sensory meltdown, and it isn't always the kiddo. I know I've had the sensory meltdown, right? So edit your plan to something that's humane. Humane. I always like to say, if this were a 16-year-old girl having to do this and you saw her schedule, would you be like, that's not kind to you? And if you would, you got to apply that to yourself. And certainly we got to apply that to our children. So edit your plan and give yourself a breath and forgive yourself because you're not going to do everything and you can't do everything. Oh, my friends, it is so hard for me. I always used to say, as we would get around March 15th, the Ides of March, and I would go, oh, here it comes. I'm going to be expected to be at 3 things a day throughout the month of April, especially on the weekends. And I ran myself right into the ground. And then I had to start saying no to something. And you know what I found out? Everybody survives. No one died. Yes, people are uncomfortable. People are unhappy. We have a great show this month that's coming up with the fabulous Harry James and with Rabbi Jackie Redner. And I love them, and they're doing an amazing show at the end of the month that you guys should all go to. That's the neurodiversity of kindness. Just absolutely amazing. But, last month, Harry James asked me if I would do one of the performance pieces and tell, I don't know, like a 5-minute story. And I said, no. and Harry, because Harry is a ball of fire. That woman is just on fire and she has so much energy. She did not accept the no in the nicest possible way. She did not accept the no and reached back out to me and said, well, here's all the reasons why I want you to reconsider your no. And then I had to say no again. And I had to get even more specific because she's fabulous. She's fabulous. And do I want to do her thing? Sure, I want to do her thing, but can I do all the things I want to do in the month of April? I cannot. And I had to have the boundary and say to Harry, who I love, no, I can't come and perform in your show, which we all know I would love as well, right? But I had to self-care and be like, no, I cannot do that. And I've already made a commitment to my son. And no, I cannot do that because I cannot do 8 things on a day. And I had to say no. And I have to tell you that this is not a pretend no. This is a staunch no for very many reasons. So you're not going to be able to talk me into it this year. And Harry was so lovely. I thought, oh, she's going to dislike me. She was so lovely about it and graciously said, okay, I hear that boundary, not going to cross it, but we talked about other things. So lovely, just lovely, right? Not everybody always takes your no well, right? There are some times that you will say no to something and people are going to guilt you and put it, just keep piling that stuff on. And you have to know that that's more about them than it is about you. I love that Maya Angelou always used to say that if you have told somebody no, and you reasonably told them, right? And you said, and this is why I need to do this for me. And they keep pushing, then that is manipulation. That is them saying, I heard that this isn't what's best for you, and I'm going to roll right over that to make it what's best for me. So when somebody's trying to pressure you into doing something that you don't want to do, remember that. That is manipulation. That we don't need a part of. And you really got to notice it for yourself and go, this person has an agenda. I'm not faulting them for having an agenda, but I got to remember that this person can't meter their agenda when I tell them what my agenda is. They're not really interested in that. It's a very powerful realization to have when somebody's trying to manipulate you into doing their thing. God bless them, but no, you don't have to do it. I'll tell you what else. It's important to do that for yourself and to do that in front of your child to teach them boundaries. We always say we don't want our children to be manipulated. Well, have we demonstrated that in front of our children? Let's do that today. Model that good behavior. Edit your plan. Let everybody have their feelings about it. Let them, right? There's what's her name? Meryl Robbins. Her book is Let Them. Let them have, they're upset. Let them be upset. But you don't have to do it all. I have given you permission. Give yourself permission. You don't have to do it all. You shouldn't do it all. So edit that plan. Number 5. Okay, this is so much fun. Create a time capsule. Now, this can be simple. I know some people just went, oh no, she's got a craft project for me. I don't have time for a craft project. Does she not know it's April? It is April, but if you've edited your time down, this can be as simple as taking one picture that you have somewhere on your phone or wherever that is labeled April 2025. It can be as involved as taking a capsule and making an actual time capsule and working with your child, your teen, or your adult. But let's put in things that are very uniquely 2025, that we're going to commemorate this moment. Now, what this helps you to do is to realize that this moment is fleeting, that all the worries and the fears and the things that you are carrying around right now are very particularly about this moment. And there will be a day in the future in which all will be revealed, right? And often things have an incredible way of working out, right? I hear parents talking about, what will happen when my child is X age? What will happen when this happens? What will happen when that happens? And yet I have the grace of having, my goodness, like almost 20 years. We're coming up on 20 years of being in this community, front row seat, and seeing all these stories of people around me that somehow work out, that seemed impossible, but stuff works out, you guys. So what we're doing is recognizing that this moment is this moment, and it's not everything, and it won't be every moment. But if we make a little time capsule, now this can be paper and you can stick it in an envelope. This could be a scrapbook that every year you put in a thing, and this is my April 2025 page, and you commemorate, oh, we went to this walk, we went to this event, and there's those 3 pictures. Like, be as creative or as simplistic as you want to be with this, right? I love when I'm trying to find something in my phone and I start to scroll back, and you're watching your life like in a movie. Oh my gosh, that's when we were in Scotland. Oh, that's when I remember we went to, where are we? Oh, it's so-and-so's birthday. And it reminds you of all these amazing things. So it can simply be a picture, maybe a picture of your child holding up a sign that says April 2025. But maybe you write down in an envelope and say, in April of 2025, my child's favorite color was this. My child could say this many words. Our schedule looked like this. Whatever is meaningful to you right now, because I guarantee you it's going to change. And a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, when you open this back up, whenever it is, you'll be like, oh, remember that? Remember when we were doing 40 hours of ABA? And we're not now. Now we're doing 8 hours of ABA. And oh, look at that. My child could say 3 words then. Oh, my child can talk a blue streak right now. It helps to remind us that now is fleeting, but it also helps us later on, because sometimes I remember, the first year that my son was in ABA, I just wanted time to move fast, and I wanted him to gain so much. And whenever he would make gains, I would be like, but it's not enough. It's not enough, And then we got to the end of the year, and somebody showed me a comparison of him at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, and it was so different. And I was able to go, oh, that's right. A year ago, he couldn't say that. He couldn't say, I love you, mommy. And now he says it all the time, right? You get to see the differences. There was one particular walk that we would go to every year, and it was kind of my time capsule, because every year we would be there. I mean, I remember the first year I had to have him in the umbrella stroller with a 5-point harness that I'd had to sew into it, because otherwise he'd wriggle out of it and I would lose him in the crowd, right? So I had to keep him, he was little, he was 3, and keep him in that umbrella stroller so that he couldn't, because he would run like the wind. I always used to say that I swore that he liked to hear the wind in his ears, because he would just, and I didn't run as fast as he did. Even when he was 3, he was a fast runner. But every year I would go back to that event, and it would be an entirely different experience. And, the next year He wasn't in the stroller anymore. He was walking and holding my hand, and he didn't run away. And the year after that, he was walking up to booths and asking questions and saying, can I have one of those? Well, the first year when he was strapped in, I couldn't even dream of that. By the last time that we went to that walk, I had a booth and my son was running the booth and talking to people and talking to kids and giving away free stuff, right? Every year it was so different. And that really was my time capsule. So it can be an event, it can be a picture, it can be a traditional time capsule where you buy something and put it together and label it. It could be just an envelope, whatever it is, but some way that you commemorate this unique moment in time, that when you take the emotion out of this time, when you look back on this time from different eyes that are not worried about the things you're worried about right now, you're going to see only the good stuff and it'll feel different. I get very emotional sometimes on the show when I hear, I'm going to get emotional now. Sometimes you guys will talk about the things that you're going through right now that are so hard for you. And I feel for you. Oh my gosh, I feel for you. But it will also remind me of when I had a similar thing going on, when I didn't think that there was any way that we could do the therapy, when I didn't, think that there was any way we were going to buy groceries on a given week, that I just was like, well, the Blanche Dubois thing about what will become of us, right? And now I am able to look back on those memories. Listen, there was the period of time when our landlord died and he had left. He hadn't been paying the rent. He was trying to refinance. It was when the whole mortgage thing fell apart. And part of the reason why he died, he had like all these properties and he was told to stop paying on them so he could get a hardship loan and get all of his interest rates reduced. And the banks were, calling him 24/7 saying, why aren't you paying these? I was completely unaware. We were paying our rent. He was taking that and sticking that in the bank account. But he had a heart attack from the stress of it. But now all of his properties were in foreclosure and I'm a renter and I have no idea of it. And we're in Southern California and it's summer. Oh my goodness. Like, this is a problem. I've got the sheriff at the door saying we're foreclosing on this property. Who are you? And I'm like, I rent. Here are my canceled checks. You can't turn us out. We paid our rent. It was terrible. It was really, really terrible. And we were allowed to stay for a couple of months in the summer to because they couldn't give us back our security deposit, but we could have no repairs. So first the air conditioning went. Oh, please. And then the dryer went. We had a stackable washer dryer. So all summer long, we're like dying in the heat. I'm trying to go to the mall to do therapy during the day because it was so hot. And then we would come home at night. I would wash laundry and I hung clothing lines up to hang the laundry to cool the place off enough so that we could sleep during the night because it was summer and hot. I can remember that it was terrible. I can remember that I cried a lot. I can remember that I felt like nothing was ever going to work and that the worst thing in the world was happening to us. But now I look back on that period of time as being a very special closeness time for our family. Because when you rip the emotion of it out, sure, I can force myself to remember that. But what I remember was that my husband and I were working together and that we were working with our ABA team to problem solve, and that my son made tremendous gains during that summer. And that it was this very simple and magical time in which my son was getting better. And I wish that I could give that to you. I wish I could package it for you. I wish I had a crystal ball that I could show you where you're going to be 2 years from now. I don't. I'm not magical. But if you create the time capsule and say to yourself, this is just a moment in time, and I can't wait to see where we are when we reopen this because we're going to be someplace better, that's the closest I can get you there. So create a time capsule in some way, simple or extravagant and elaborate, whatever works best for you, but it's a worthwhile endeavor. Okay, let's go on to number 6. Okay, so pick your team. Now, one of the things that I loved when I would go to that particular walk, but I never really got to participate in it the way that I'm suggesting that you do. But I would go and I would see other families that would do this. They would create a team to walk with and for their child. And it was a big deal for a lot of the families that I know. I mean, there are families that have 400 people walking. That's not most people. Most people show up and maybe they have between 3 and 8 people. But I have to tell you, I learned this the hard way, that there are people in your life who want to support you and want to support your child, and they don't know how. They don't know how. They don't know that you're the first person that they have been this close with that has had a child be diagnosed, and they don't. There's no rule book. There's no rule book that says, hey, this is how you support your friend, or here's what you'd want to ask them how they want to be supported. They don't know. So if you do something that says, hey, we would like for you to participate in this with us, amazing things happen. But first, you got to pick your team. If you were going to pick a team to surround your child with love and acceptance, who would you pick? And it's not going to be everybody, right? And it might be weird when you really think about it, because it might be the next door neighbor that you don't know that well. It might be your whole family and nobody outside your family. It could be your child's teacher. I have seen that happen and I have seen that work. But pick your child's team. And I really think it's important to invite people to the team. And if you've got something to take them to, which is going to be our number 7 here in a second, so much the better. But pick your team. Now, I never did it in the way that I saw the people at the walk, but the truth is I did it in different ways. The response that I got back was the people were honored. They're like, I'm so honored to be included in this. And they would also say things like, I have not known how to support you, or I've not known how to support him, or I've not known how to support your family. Well, I think on bad days, we think, why do we have to show them how to support us, right? And why can't they just know? Because they can't. Because this is new. And maybe sometime it won't be new, but pick your team. And this isn't just about today, my friends. This is about today, tomorrow, and all the tomorrows afterward. Because we are not immortal, and you need to surround your child with a community. That is just a fact. That is just a reality. Because you're not going to live forever. And sometimes poo happens even while you're alive. And you got to call somebody from the community and say, can you help me? So pick your team. Then let's go on to number 7, because then we want to do something with or for your team. Now, this could be anything under the sun. You could go to a walk together. And I've seen people, like I said, get 400 people together with matching t-shirts. Now, that's not everybody. But some families will show up and there's 3 of them or 5 of them, and they've decorated their t-shirts with they got white t-shirts and they, decorated them with magic markers. There are people who show up with signs. They come up with a team name. I mean, whatever flippeth your switch, right? But build some excitement around it. So if it's not a walk, if you're not going to a walk, it could be other things. We do this all the time. But do something with or for your team to include them. It could be that you just have, a Sunday brunch with your team. And that doesn't mean that you guys have to sit and talk about how they're going to support your kiddo. You can just have brunch and say, we so appreciate you. You're a part of our community. You don't have to assign jobs. Now, I chose to assign jobs, and I asked people that were far flung, so we didn't have a brunch. But, eventually we did a Zoom meeting. But I would ask people and say, if I'm not here, I'm not asking you to take full ownership of my child and their life, but can you help them with X, Y, or Z? Whatever they happen to be an expert with. That was sort of my way of building the team, right? You got to decide for yourself, how do you want a team build? Who do you want to be on this team? And what does that look like? But then do something with or for them. It could be as simple as sending a card. It could be as elaborate as the matching t-shirts, and you go do something, an activity, whatever that activity is. But build the team. and give them access to your child so that they appreciate your child. Man, I love it. I have friends that invested in my child and would do things with my child, and he loves it when they show up because they've been in his life the whole time, and he knows that he's accepted by them. So definitely build the team and involve them. And if they're long distance, have your child get on and do Zoom. It's not the worst thing in the world. Is it hard sometimes? Sure. But you can help your child through that. Getting a ton of messages. Okay. Moving on to number 8. Fly your proud parent flag. This is critical. We were supposed to have on the show a week ago today, my dear friend, Kelly Walton, and I'm going to reschedule with her. We're going to have her on. So Kelly and I we met in college and we eventually became roommates. We rented a place together with another person. And Kelly's just a light in this world. Now, we left college and we kind of went our separate ways and we saw each other from time to time. Kelly got married fairly quickly and she had 2 little boys. And one of her sons was diagnosed on the spectrum. I'm trying to think what year that would have been. Like, I don't know, 91, 92. So a long time ago when the numbers were vastly, vastly different. And really, honestly, Kelly was the first friend that I had that their child got diagnosed that was like a contemporary friend. And I look back and I go, I don't think I did a good job. I should have. I wish that I had reached out to her and said, what do you need? What can I do? And I didn't. I felt bad for her. And I kind of waited for her to tell me what she needed. See? Sometimes we have to tell people. And then when I would see her, I would say, how is he doing? And I would ask questions and listen. But I lived kind of far from her. So it wasn't like I could say, can I help with driving or whatever? But I always thought of her. And I don't think she knew that. So fast forward, almost 18 years, and I have a child now who's diagnosed on the spectrum, who calls me when she finds out and says, oh, I just heard, do you need anything, right? Because she was on the other side of the fence and she knew what parents need. And Kelly was like a lighthouse for me in so many different ways that when I was having problems with something, I knew I could be honest with her and she would give me advice about things to do. So I got to have Kelly on the show at some point. But one of the most important things that Kelly said to me was a version of this. And she said, and I know I've said it before on the show, she said, in these moments when things happen and people try to rob you or your child of the dignity of what you're going through, don't let them. She said, you take a deep breath, you put your shoulders back and you walk proudly through whatever the space is that you're going through because you are proud to be this child's parent. And that's the beginning and the end of the sentence, right? Take a deep breath, put your shoulders back and be proud. I think that it's critical that we embrace that. And I don't care what other people think. There was a time when I did. And, my sentence, which is other people's opinions of my parenting is none of my business, right? It's none of my business. Nor do they really even know, right? If somebody completely understands, and nobody does, let's be honest. Even though we might have similar things that have happened to us that we can go, oh, yes, I appreciate that. I understand. My experience is different from yours and your experience is different from mine. And nobody understands all of the things that you have gone through. Hear that for a minute. Nobody understands all of the things that you have gone through. So take a breath. Put your shoulders back. Be proud. Be proud. And be proud in front of your child because they need to see that, and this is so squeamy, right? I talk to advocates all the time, and it was years ago that I realized, when we talk about how hard parenting a child on the spectrum is, what they hear is that parenting them is hard. That is not what we're saying at all, is it, you guys? No, we love our children. Our children are amazing. That's not the hard part. Our children are not the hard part. It's everything else. That's what's hard. Fighting with the school to get them to value that your child needs to be educated. Whew. And to get them to understand that your child is smart, that your child is capable. Whoo! That's some heartache right there. Or when the other kids on the playground don't accept your child or make fun of them. Whoo, the pain that we feel because we want the world to meet our child where they are and we don't want our child to be hurt, right? That's the hard stuff. Figuring out how you're going to afford to pay for all of it and keep the roof over. Oh, for heaven's sake, that's the hard stuff. That's what's hard for us. So what we need to show our kiddos is that we are proud of them and that we are proud to be their parent. Now that might look like a bunch of different things for you. And you got to figure out what your child's love language is so that you make sure that you're modeling that behavior in a way that gets to them, that they receive. When my son was little, obviously we used a lot of praise and told him how amazing he was. But my pastime then was that I was scrapbooking. It was the thing I could do that was arts and crafts, but it still involved him. And I was like, this will be useful to him someday. And I would journal in the scrapbook about what we were doing. If you really think about it, they're time capsules. I would do all of those things. But what I know he saw years later as he would turn the page, like I would do double pages of scrapbook, and one of them was 10 things I love about Jem. And I listed these 10 things and he was like, wow, I'm kind of cool, aren't I? So, whatever you need to do but you got to do it loud and proud in front of everybody, but most especially in front of your child. Let your child know that you're proud of them and that you are proud to be their parent. Now, all of our children don't receive communication in the same way. So that might look vastly different depending on how your child communicates. But communicate it and find the way to communicate it for your child. Whether you find the sign or, you draw a picture of it or whatever it is that you do, or maybe it's in the way you hug them. But fly your proud parent flag and fly it high. By the way, when you go to events too, get a t-shirt. We made a t-shirt for when my son was leaving ABA. It's a little controversial now, but we had a t-shirt for my husband that said, Autism 0, Jem 1, because it was like he took this round, and Jem is in control of what. There are people who are like, well, but autism represents me, so you're saying I'm nothing. Different people are going to take things different ways. That's why I said it's a little bit controversial now. But the whole idea of make a t-shirt, commemorate, be proud, right? Okay, number 9. Do something your child loves. And I said, as when we were going through fast, this is something you should do every day. And I know people say, well, it's April. We do autism every month. Yes, we do. And that is our reality. But in that every month, do something your child loves and let it be something that is meaningful to them. It may not be your favorite thing. It's hard sometimes. You got a lot going on, and sometimes the things that your child loves, it's not your thing. And I've seen my child phase through a bunch of different things in his life, and I try, some things I'm much more into than other things, but I got to be honest. He does this for me. Do you know? Like he finds I've shared before in the show that one of the ways that we communicate now is that we send each other, memes and things, reels. And he knows that I love otters. I'm in an otter phase right now. I just love otters. And if he comes across a video and there's so many, Google holding hands with an otter, it's just craziness to it. So good. I know I don't want an otter pet. They're wild animals, but they are the most precious, wonderful things on the planet, aside from our children. But he'll send me otter videos. Now, a couple of years ago, I was all about corgis, and he still sends me. I got a reel about a corgi having a fajita made for him special order, a fat little corgi. Uh, sure, but he'll send that to me like at noon, and I'll get that at my lunch, and it's the sweetest, nicest thing, right? My son is tuned into what can I send to mom as a way of expressing I care about you, I'm thinking about you, right? I need to be doing that for him as well. Of course I do. I just don't think I do it as well as he now does it. But I modeled that behavior. So what is your child into? Not what they were into a month ago, but what are they into right now? Is what's the thing that they're obsessed with that they really want to do? If it's Thomas the Tank, then it's Thomas the Tank. And if you can take them to a store that has a bunch of Thomas the Tank, a lot of those mom and pop toy stores will have toys that the child can play with right there. You don't have to purchase, you can play with. They have Thomas the Tank. You want to talk about looking for a local event. They have Thomas the Tank festivals that go around the country. Google that. Oh, it's so much fun, you guys. There's so many games and opportunities to do things. Life-size Thomas the Tank that runs around the track. Whatever your child loves right now, with no judgment from anybody else. I love our experts and they're so wonderful. But when they start talking about, well, in order to be age appropriate, then we have to cut Thomas the Tank out entirely. I just want to stick my fingers in my mouth and make a bad noise. I understand the rationale behind it. And I really am very excited about introducing your child to more things like bigger trains so that they can be interested and obsessed with that. But taking it away entirely, I'm just not a fan of. I'm just saying it. And especially, there are just times when you have to do something with your child that they absolutely love. I got to be honest with you that my son now, the current thing that he's really into is Warhammer. I wish I understood what the obsession is. I really super don't. I had like a 45-year-old man at the Warhammer store try to explain it to me. I still don't get it. All I know is that my son's super into it. So a couple of Saturdays ago, I went and spent the day in a Warhammer store so he could show me everything that there was and show me people playing Warhammer. Okay. I'm like learning about it. I'm figuring things out. Do I like any of it? No, it's not my thing. Doesn't matter. It's what my child is into. And my child's an adult. But, I like to show things to people and get excited about them. And my thing lately, I've been painting a peace pole. I'm almost done with my peace pole. And my friends are so sick and tired of me talking about the peace pole. But they listen to it and they're all going to come over and ooh and ah over the peace pole because that's what we do for the people that we love. You don't have to love it. You just have to listen. And you got to show up. And for our kiddos, we got to take them. So do something your child loves. Put everything else on back burner and don't spend the whole thing on your phone. Sometime in May, I'm going to have on, we got an expert. I went to her seminar just a couple of weeks ago. She's an expert in water safety. And one of the things that I really got from it, she was like, if I could do one thing for parents, I would say, take this thing and put it away. That, she said that a lot of drownings they're seeing, it happens in the 3 seconds that a parent is looking at their phone. Take your child where they want to be and challenge yourself to put the phone away. Be present. Be listening. Be there for them the way you would want someone to be there for you. Put the phone away. Okay, number 10. Last but not least, reflect on where you want to be next year. So, when you're making the time capsule, I want you to think for just a moment. It doesn't have to be when you're making the time capsule. It will be any time. But I want you to dream for a second. Where are you going next year? Where do you hope? Now, if your child is 3 and you're saying to yourself, well, I want my child to go to college. Well, it's very unlikely your child's going to do that next year, right? They're going to be 4. I don't think I've heard of a 4-year-old successfully being at college. Okay. So let's be realistic and say, okay, we want him to graduate from college when he's 21, but when he's 4, what does he need to be doing? And then make yourself a list about all the things that you would like to be able to do with your child next year, all the things that you would like for your child to be able to do, all the things that you wish that your child didn't have to go through for next year. Make yourself a list and maybe tuck that somewhere in a cabinet for you to look at. Maybe take a picture of it so that it comes up a year from now to remind you. But reflect on where you want to be next year, because that becomes your compass. That is a moment where you're defining for yourself what's important today in order to get to the next year. And if you have the luck to have any kind of resources and support, whether it's school and you've got an IEP, or you've got speech or OT or APE, or you're doing intensive ABA, talk with your whole team about where you want to be next year. What are the things that you're hoping for next year? Speak it into existence and let people know that's the direction that we're walking in. And then mindfully start walking there. That's really the key, I think, to everything. If you know where you're walking and why you're walking there, it gets easier even through the hardest times. I think that's part of why I look back at the time when, the laundry was hanging through the house, and it doesn't feel painful at all. It feels like we were badass. Like we were going to do that therapy no matter what. Like I remember looking and getting a price quote on a camper because I thought, if nothing else, we'll do therapy in the camper. That's pretty badass, right? So, but I knew where we were going and I knew where we wanted to be. So, super duper important. Here's another thing that I'm just learning now, because all of my goals went up to the possibility of him graduating from college. The truth of the matter is he gets to make his own goals now, right? I'm out. Peace out. But of course I have hopes and dreams for him that I want to consider. And I have to have also more hopes and dreams for myself for next year. Cause I go, God, he's going to graduate from college. And then what are we doing? I don't know. I didn't think this far ahead, but we are arriving there. And I want to be honest with you that part of the reason why we arrived there is that I did some of the things that we just talked about. Did I always do them right? Did I always do them well? No, I did not. But we got through it because we knew where we were going. And we lived to do it another day. So those are my 10 things that I hope you get to, have a moment to at least think about during this April A month, whichever word you choose to use. I think for me, I don't know, it's like all of them, right? But I do think that acceptance, authenticity, and appreciation are very, but the truth is accomplice and ally is swirling there too. They all are. It's Sophie's choice. I can't pick just one. What about you? Can you pick just one? Let me know. Okay. So what happens now? So, as I said, this is the last show that we will air well, that's not even true, because we have shows that we taped in this that will play during April. Never mind. But what happens now is that we're going to be switching to the April schedule. So on Monday, it's available on our Facebook page now. Go and look at what the April schedule is and sort of plan when you want to show up live. A lot of the episodes, in fact, all of the episodes are pre-taped except for the ones on Tuesdays with Dr. Graham Boucher, where our expectation is that we will be live, but from home. It'll sort of feel like the pandemic because we are finishing the new studio and moving to the new studio. It takes a minute to take it all down. We have all these lights that have to come down safely, and everything has to get trucked to around the corner. It's just craziness. But we're still here. We're still commemorating this amazing month of A words, and we hope that you are too with us. We still expect to see you writing in. I will be monitoring, or somebody else will be monitoring, and sometimes our guests will be monitoring. I hope you will check out some of the amazing program that we took the time to put together for you. So I will see you again on Monday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me, and let's do this April A month thing, and let's do it together. All right. Until then, as I said, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.
About that.